Hello, this is Dr. Mark Goulston, live streaming to YouTube. I'm fiddling around with all the technology here, and I decided I'd try black and white, maybe to be a contrast with the oversaturated market, and also it helps me cover up some of the redness in my face. What I wanted to talk to you about today is to give you another no strings attached tip that hopefully you can use immediately. I have a LinkedIn live show called No Strings Attached, and you can actually find out about other episodes if you go to LinkedIn and search for Mark Goulston, No Strings Attached. And we'll be adding guests who, like me, will hopefully be sharing tips, advice that will cause you to think, I never would have thought of that, and maybe that would work. So I'm going to share one of those with you today. Another, I never would have thought of that, but maybe that would work. Here's some advice and some tips before you get involved in a professional relationship, a partnership, hire someone, or even a personal relationship. And I want to thank my good friend Marshall Goldsmith because he's inspired a lot of my thinking. In fact, he's going to be a guest on No Strings Attached. And how he's inspired me is one of his ideas is focus on the future that nobody has messed up yet. Be proactive instead of focusing on something that's already happened, and then everybody's reactive. People get defensive, people get hurt, people get angry. And so I thought that was such a great idea to focus on the future. And so before you hire someone, before you partner with someone, before you get involved with them in a personal relationship, in one of your initial conversations, and say it in a friendly way, not as if you're assessing or evaluating them. You might say, hey, let me ask you a few questions. When you look back at your other relationships, your other jobs, tell me about differences of opinions, disappointments, disagreements. And they're going to say, what? You say, yeah. Differences of opinions, disagreements, disappointments, they're inevitable. And it's going to happen to us. And it's probably already happened to you. It's already happened to me in other relationships. So tell me about those in your past. Now, what you're listening for is for someone who takes no responsibility for any of those. That's a red flag. That's strike one. And if they share differences of opinions, and especially disagreements and disappointments, and it's always someone else's fault, say to them, that's really interesting, and I can understand that, and I can see why you might have felt that way. Here's the second question, strike two. Tell me how you contributed to the difference of opinion, but especially the disagreement and the disappointment. How did you contribute to that? And again, if they take no responsibility, if it's always someone else was the cause of the disappointment or the disagreement, that's strike two. But even then, they get a strike three. And the third strike is to say to them, I can understand that. I can understand you're feeling disappointed, having those kinds of disagreements. We all have those. Let me ask you, going forward, as we get to know each other, we get to work with each other, in the event that we have a difference of opinion, disagreements, or disappointments, how do you suggest we approach that? And again, what you're listening for is someone who is open to taking some responsibility for their part of the problems that occur going forward. You're listening for someone who would say, well, I think we both need to share our points of view, what we're upset about, what would make it better, how to move forward. That's what you're listening for. But if they don't do that, if they have no idea that they are part of the disagreements and disappointments, and they added to that, that's three strikes. And I know you're eager, if you're in business, to hire that person for that position that you've been looking for and needing to fill. Or if you're lonely, you don't want to know these things. But don't you agree that even when the honeymoon period fades, or after the honeymoon period fades, don't you agree that there's always going to be differences of opinion? There's always going to be disagreements. There's always going to be disappointments. In fact, I'm entering into a relationship with you right now if you're watching this. And if you have a difference of opinion on what I'm saying, if you disagree with it, if you're disappointed in these tips that I'm giving you, these suggestions, how would you suggest that we in our budding relationship here on YouTube would deal with that? If you kind of arch your back and look at me as if, well, we better not have them, then I wish you well, I wish you luck, and I would say, maybe it's not a good idea if we move forward, because I know we're going to have difference of opinions, disagreements, and disappointments. So I hope you'll find that helpful. Some of you may find it disturbing because you may be thinking, I should have done that before I got involved with my partner or my girlfriend or boyfriend. But I was so eager to get into the relationship, it would have saved me a lot of trouble that I'm now in. So again, a thank you to Marshall Goldsmith. You can find him all over LinkedIn. He has a wonderful LinkedIn live show. He has the best guests. He has the best interviews. So Marshall, I don't know if you'll ever see this, so another shout out to you and thank you. And going forward, I'm looking forward to continuing to be inspired by everything you've taught me. So I hope that's helpful, and we'll look to see you again sometime.